everybody, and thank you so much for coming in. I understand that there are a lot of other events going on today and people are scattered all over the events, but I'm thankful to all of you who joined for our wonderful session. And let me inform you that today is our seventh session. Toxopedia is conducting the seventh session, and by now, as you all are aware, that Toxopedia is a platform wherein we have, we get speakers from all over the world to come here and speak on different topics. And before I get into the details, let me once again remind you to just follow the rules and regulations of online meetings. Keep your audios and videos switched off unless and until the speaker asks you to switch it on. Keep a notebook ready with you. If you have to note down some important points from the session, you can do that. And please refrain from recording any part of the session because we are recording the session and the recorded video will be sent to all of you, all the participants and everybody who had registered. Now, let me get back to introducing the guest speaker. Our friendship started in the year 2015 when I had met Sadika in Dubai. She was my fellow contestant. And I was completely impressed the way she shared her story, which was all her relationship about her father. And I saw a great storyteller in Sadika. And I still remember the speech, The Wall, which conveyed the message that how relationship gets shattered when we have this thing called ego and we just deny or hesitate to say sorry to our close ones. Sadika moved on to following her passion as a coach, and now she serves as a coach. She's a great storyteller. She's a keynote speaker. She has been an English language instructor, and she's a certified coach by John Maxwell Team. She is the executive director of John Maxwell Team since 2019. So please help me welcome my dear friend, the storyteller from the Switzerland of Middle East, Lebanon, Sadika Kebbi. Sadika, I'll put you on spotlight. Yes, now the screen is yours. You may please start.
Thank you so much, Nisha. I would like to start by thanking you for this opportunity. I'm really humbled and honored to be on that platform. And good afternoon, everyone. And you're going to be listening to my journey, which has led me to understand the value of diversity and inclusion. And the whole thing started when I read, by the way, Romeo and Juliet. And this sentence of Juliet, what's in a name, when she told her Romeo, it triggered something inside me, and I felt like everything was in those two names. There was the legacy of two families. There was hate and love. There were grudge and forgiveness. There was revenge and compassion. And here it threw me back to my own childhood. Let me first explain my name to you. My name is Sadika Kebbi. Sadika in Arabic means friend. And kibbi, by the way, is a very famous dish in Lebanon. So the combination of Sadika and kibbi really caused me lots of trouble when I was in school. The first minute I was born, I was buried under labels. The first label was, she's a female. Afif Kebbi was my father, got a girl. Afif Kebbi called her Sadika after her grandmother. And wherever I went or whatever I did, I always heard, we hope she turns out to be like her grandmother. And at a certain point, there was no Sadika. The Sadika myself wasn't there. Especially when bullying at the age of 5 started. And the kids at school, the first bullying was for the first part of my name, Sadika, which is an old name. It wasn't up to the, if you want, respect because of that old name, which rendered me like, where does she come from? A village or something? She's not a city girl. She's different. And then the second part of my name, Kebbi, which is the famous dish, and we have it in many different, we offered it in many different styles. And I always heard the Kebbi went and the Kebbi came, to a certain point where I decided to retreat, and I wouldn't dare go to the break time. I stayed in the classroom. And for a whole 6 months, or the 2 first terms of the school academic year at the time, I remained there in that classroom. No one took a step to approach me, to take me into consideration, or ask about my absence, until one of those teachers, she noticed what was happening, or she was observing actually. And she came up to me one day and she said, I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to keep this in your mind. You wear the price tag which people price you accordingly. Your self-worth has to come first. You have to flaunt it in people's eyes. And then she kept on going. You have a beautiful name, Sadika, a friend. Do you know how many meanings this word contains? Live up to your name, and you're going to have plenty of friends. And she continued and said, never ever compare yourself to anyone. Always compare yourself to Sadika of the yesterday and to Sadika of the today. At the time, it didn't really sink in, or the meaning did not really sink in, because a 5-year-old wouldn't grasp the whole meaning. But she gave me the courage to leave the classroom and go back into the playground. And I decided on that day to be courageous and to stand up for myself and to live up to my name. A few weeks later, my first friendship started. She was called Jana. She was my friend, and I discovered that she was my neighbor. She lived in the same building as I did. We became so close together that we spent most of our afternoons playing mothers and daughters, and wearing our mother's clothes, wearing our mother's scarves, wearing makeup, smudging our faces. And we had such great time together, and we dreamed about our future. And at that time, all we heard, as Nisha said, about the Switzerland of the Middle East. About that Switzerland, which was only about culture, art, knowledge, education. And this is all what we knew about our Lebanon, until the Civil War started, and until the 10th of December 1975, the day known as Black Saturday. On that day, Jana and her family left their home early in the morning. And on that day, I'm sorry to say that, but this is the facts and the way it was at the time. A Christian Lebanese party took over the streets of Beirut and started killing people according to their ID. Whenever the ID said Muslims, the families were terminated. In the evening, Jana and her family came back home wrapped in red and white sheets. I heard the screams, but I couldn't discern what was happening. And as a child, curiosity is number one. I just stormed into Jana's bedroom and I saw her lying on her pink mattress covered with white sheets. And I thought to myself, she's playing hide and seek. And I rushed and I uncovered the sheets. And the atrocity of the whole situation impacted me in a way that I lost belief in my Lebanon. I lost belief in my Christian friends. And for 2 whole years, I only heard words of grudge, revenge, anger, and hatred. And even my closest friends became my enemies. How would I believe in our diversity? The Lebanese diversity, which is 18 sects that lived for hundreds of years together on that land. And never ever we knew who was who. We never knew who was a Jew. We never knew who was a Christian. We never knew who was a Muslim. We were all Lebanese on that platform of Lebanon. But on that day, everything shattered just into 18 pieces. 2 years later, our neighborhood was heavily bombarded. And my father decided to take refuge at Uncle George's house, who was his childhood friend. Uncle George was a priest. And once we stepped into his house, the first thing he said, Sadika, I want you to remember those words as if you are memorizing the Quran or the Bible. From now on, and as long as you stay here in that area, your name is Mary. Your brother's name is Joseph. Your mother's name is Anna. And your father's name is Eli. Don't you ever forget that. And in the evening, Uncle George's door was violently knocked on. He rushed in a split of a second to my side and he took me in his arms and he whispered into my ear and he said, hold on to my Bible, it will keep you safe. And whatever happens, don't look at that door. The door opened. And again, the curiosity of a child. I took a peek and I saw 10 armed, masked men standing on Uncle George's doorstep. And they asked him to hand in the Muslim family he was hiding. But Uncle George stood his ground. And he said, it's only my immigrating brother who's here on a visit with his family. If you would like to come in, I can introduce you to them. But of course, his credibility And as a religious man, the 10 armed masked men immediately left. My whole world tumbled again here, and I was just wondering what happened. I mean, 2 years ago, Christians took the life of my best friend, and now 2 years later, a Christian is saving our lives. Uncle George took this a step further, for we stayed with him for 6 months. The next day in the morning, he woke me for my morning prayers. I would stand on my prayer rug and he would sit beside me with his Bible and rosary in hand. We'd pray together, and after each prayer, imagine for 5 times a day for 6 months in a row, he would repeat, Sadika, keep this in mind. When you hold God in your heart, the human he created reveals itself by serving others. And then, and only then, even your enemy becomes human. His words seeped into my heart like water seeps into the rocks. It revived it again. It brought the human from the inside again. Whenever there was a peace treaty, he would take me with him. He would lead the way and show the way, as John Maxwell says. He would take me with him and we would stand in never-ending rows on bakery doorsteps to just get a bag of the Arabic famous pita bread. He would keep one loaf for both our families, and he'd take me around Beirut to distribute the rest. And he would never ask whether this family is a Muslim family or a Christian family, or any of the 18 other sects in Lebanon. We didn't have water in our houses. We would go to fetch water from the main source and go and distribute whatever bottles we have to the families in need. He would help with the injured. He would even bury the dead. And Sadika was there just watching and observing. And slowly, slowly, the human within started growing. And slowly she knew that without Uncle George, she wouldn't have been here today with you. Without Uncle George, she wouldn't have learned that holding God in her heart would make her human and would make her enemy even human. And I followed this path, if you want, or this became a philosophy without me knowing at first that Uncle George sentence of when you hold God in your heart, the human he created reveals itself by serving others, and then and only then, even your enemy becomes human. I didn't know that this was becoming my philosophy in life. But by the age of 14, I volunteered with the Red Cross. And I cannot describe the atrocities I've seen. The only thing I would tell you is that the 18 sects in Lebanon killed each other. The 18 sects in Lebanon held hate and grudge in their hearts just to satisfy their leaders There was no other reason. There was no other legal reason that would make them angry towards each other than their leaders. By serving in the Red Cross, I started to learn that if you don't respect yourself and if you don't give self-worth or know your self-worth, you cannot help others. You have to know your self-worth and you have to respect to help others without asking about identity, about religion, about race, about anything. And when you have respect, compassion just floods out from your heart. And diversity and inclusion becomes a lifestyle without even questioning or without even thinking about it. It becomes you, actually. And I remained a volunteer in the Red Cross until I got married. And even without me noticing and unconsciously, Uncle George's philosophy became my family's philosophy. And the first time my kids got to know Uncle George was on that day where they were ripping books. Books for me were sacred. And I told my kids, you can do whatever you want in that house. Whatever you want. You can paint on walls. You can destroy your toys and put them back again. You can do whatever you want. You have the full liberty. But if you touch my books or you damage those books, then I will have a word with you guys. And one day, I woke up to see them ripping my books, not only damaging, more than damaging. It was like they were taking something from my soul. I didn't say anything. I just told them, get ready, get dressed, you're coming with me. I shoved the 4 kids into that car and I drove to the most underprivileged area in the Middle East according to United Nations. This area is under poverty level until now, and it is known as Bib Tibene in North Lebanon, Tripoli. We went there, and I just did like Uncle George did. I led the way, and I showed the way. And I started visiting people, and I went from house to house, and the kids were there observing and listening and watching. And all they saw was misery, poverty, pain, hunger, suffering. And without me saying anything, I drove back home in the afternoon, and they immediately went to their toys, their clothes, everything they had, and they just started wrapping stuff. Wrapping everything in gift wrap. And they said, Mom, please take us back tomorrow. We have things for the kids there to give away. And believe me, ever since that moment, I have never heard my kids ask for anything. Nothing. Not even a pair of socks. And this is how I instilled the philosophy of Uncle George in their heart. And this is how diversity and inclusion became their lifestyle. I went back to university for my master's when my son was doing his BA. He graduated a year before I did. The next year, when I went to pay my tuition fees, the cashier guy noticed the similarity in my name and my son's name, whose name is Abdul Qadir. And he was like, is Abdul Qadir related to you in any way? And I was like, he's my son. And the cashier said, I'm sure you have no idea what your son has done at the university during those 3 years. And I was like, oh my God, what has he done? I'm sure he has gotten into trouble and I'm the last one to know. But the cashier was, I would like to tell you something. Your son worked at the university at the same times while he was pursuing his study. And in addition to his pocket money, he taught an underprivileged Christian young man, and they graduated together last June. I was in tears and I was dumbfounded. And also, I was proud. And also, I knew that my message in implementing diversity and inclusion and the love of their country and the love of people, because if you don't prefer people, you have to prefer people so you can help them shine. They have to come first so you can help them shine. I knew that I have planted the right seed in my children. And many other incidents started happening. And I started hearing stuff from people. Like one time I just parked my car in one of the parking lots and I paid whatever I needed to pay and then left to do my errands. And I came back and this young man came up to me and he threw back the money from the window and he just told me, are you Ramsey's mother? And I was, yes. And he said, there is no way, I'm sorry my father took the money from you, but there is no way I can take money from you. For your son has done a lot for me. Yes, I guess I have done my job towards my family and my kids. And this is when I started considering to grow and make Uncle George's message more universal, if you want, and more inclusive. And I decided to start my own NGO under the name of Being Human, or in Arabic, Kun Insan. And the purpose, the main objective of that NGO is to bring the Lebanese people together to preach, if you want, diversity and inclusion and peace building as well through storytelling and public speaking, because I believe that storytelling is such a powerful tool that you can use, and it is, by the way, a double-edged sword, which you can use either to destroy, either to build. And I decided to start off my journey with this platform of Being Human and bringing the Lebanese people together on that one platform of being human, and just disregarding the labels the society has just buried us under. And so far, this strategy has proven to be so effective, where I have done so far 4 projects and bringing all the diversity we have in Lebanon together in workshops for 3 to 4 months, especially during summer, and especially focusing on youth together in workshops of storytelling and public speaking. And my God, what is happening? And the golden rule I discovered through these workshops was the SFTU golden rule. SFTU. Seek first to understand. And whenever those young people came together and they sought first to understand the story of the other and to understand the behavior of the other and to understand the reaction of the other and to understand what is behind the name, what is the story behind the name. Believe me, peace and stillness would reign in those workshops. And after peace and stillness, love would touch the hearts and would awaken the hearts. With time also, and when I joined John Maxwell Team, by the way, John Maxwell started as a priest. He was a priest, and this is how, and he discovered leadership through the traits of Jesus. And he wrote, if you want, it's not that he wrote a Bible, but he wrote his own Bible, we say. It is the Bible as is, but under each sentence that has anything or verse that has anything to do with leadership, you would have the John Maxwell interpretation. And then at some point he felt that the church is really too tight for him. So he decided to outgrow that. And he left the church and he started his team, the John Maxwell Team for leadership. When I first joined his team, and the first time I went to the live conference in Orlando, Florida, I was at the time the first woman who was wearing the scarf. And I arose the curiosity, if you want, of people there. They were mostly American people. And there were, at each event, he does his event twice per year. At each event, there are almost 4,000 people present. So the first time I walked into that huge conference room, people just looked, who's she? What is she doing here? So I had people approaching me. And then the first question would be, how did you join how did you find out about John Maxwell? And I would be very honest, Google. I just Googled a very good leadership program because this is what I lacked as a trainer at the time, and I wanted to grow in leadership skills and leadership training. So this is how I discovered John Maxwell. And then the next question, which still happens until now, each time I go to that conference, is, did you know about John's faith? And always my answer is, yes, I know about John's faith. And I'm here because of John's faith. Because people of faith don't fear people of faith. And then I have the American people who are really kind-hearted. They're always shedding tears whenever I say this sentence. Yes, this is what diversity and inclusion brings to you. If you have this value, it's a value, it's a leadership value to understand what diversity is. Diversity is bringing people together and preserving their uniqueness. Diversity is bringing people together to think together, but still think independently. And inclusion is to accept the other and let them feel that you have compassion for them, no matter who they are, no matter where they come from. So these values, I repeat, these are values of leadership. If a person have these two values, he would, first of all, seek first to understand what is behind the name and the face before judging others. And what added value to me is also the huge experience I had with John. John has started a program 3 years ago, which is called Country Transformation. So He meets the president of the country that chooses to transform. And so far we have gone to Guatemala, Costa Rica, and Paraguay. And this is a mind-blowing experience about diversity and inclusion. We go to those countries, like 250 coaches join John on those transformational trips, if you want. And we have the green light from the president of the country just to invade the country, literally invade it. We are there to go into every single institution you can think of. The training starts from the president to the tiniest person in the country. So you have presidents and VIP people trained by John on leadership values, by the way, and roundtable, transformational roundtables, we call it. And we just go everywhere. We go into churches, we go into mosques, we go into academies, we go into universities, schools, medical hospitals, everything you can think of, we just transform it. And we revisit. Every year we revisit to see what happens, if things are being implemented. So we do follow up. One of those days I was in Costa Rica, and I was called to go to my training. By the way, there's a rule also, we don't know where we are going. John says you just take your file and your driver will be waiting there for you, and you will discover where you are going once you get there. So sometimes we are at ministries, sometimes we are in Walmart, sometimes we are in a school. And on that day, I was going to a church. And when I was called, I noticed that the organizers, from their body language, I noticed that there was something going on. There was something wrong. And of course, I didn't understand the language because they spoke Spanish, but I had my translator with me. 10 minutes passed by and things were kind of bubbly. And then my translator comes forward and she says, Sadika, your driver is not here. Can you please take your seat again? I know that there was something other than that. And then immediately there was another Maxwell coach and trainer called Anna Banks who joined me. She's Black American, and she was very transparent. She comes up to me and she says, Sadika, this training is happening in a church. And when the organizers knew or saw that you are Muslim, they thought that you are not the right person for that training. And here again, I felt, and I had those memories of being excluded, starting from school, and then with Jana, and then the whole story came back to my mind. And this feeling of exclusion is so horrible that it makes you really consider, am I worthy enough to be here? Am I worthy enough to be a John Maxwell trainer? Am I worthy enough to go to a church? And for a split of a second, just this crossed my mind, and I shoved it on the side, and I told Anna, I'm going to that church, and no one else is going there. And she said, okay, I understand you, but I'm gonna come with you just in case you feel you need support at some point. And then the driver turns out to be the priest of the church who was coming to pick me up and deliver that workshop. And of course, on the way, and the ride took 2 hours, on the way, I told them Uncle George's story. And I had the priest in tears, and Anna was in tears, and my translator was in tears. And when I was in that church at that time, and when I delivered my training, the priest came forward and shared my story with his community. And then you had 200 people in tears, and each and every single person in that church came up to me and said, "Thank you for breaking the stereotype of a Muslim in our head. Thank you for allowing us to understand what is diversity and inclusion. It is to accept the other, and it is to admit his or her uniqueness." That moment was really special and powerful. And I can tell you that I'm still learning, because there is no finish line to growth and personal growth. And the more you learn and the more you sow, the more humility, and the more you discover that you still don't know, that you still have a lot to learn, especially about human beings. What I've understood so far from my journey is that we are born human beings, but our purpose on this earth, on this planet, is to become human before we leave this planet. And when we become human, there's nothing called diversity and inclusion anymore, because it's our nature. It's us, because it's already in there, because the other is part of me, because his story completes my story. And what happens is this mindset about competition just vanishes, and there's this mindset about completion that takes its place. We're not here to compete. We are here to complete. We are not here to compete. We are here to complete. Because you complete me. It's just like a couple. People just keeps on arguing about husband and wife, and about he doesn't understand me and she doesn't understand me, and she's different and he's different. It's because of this mindset of competition. We're not here to compete. I'm not here to say that I'm better than a man. I'm not here to say I want to be equal to a man. No, because I'm different and he's different, and we complete each other. Because he needs me and I need him, and without him and without me in his life, we wouldn't have a better life. So we complete each other. And this is what I have learned about diversity and inclusion, and it has been instilled within me through my experience. I want to thank you so much for being here and listening to my story and to my journey and to my learnings. And I hope I made a difference. And I want to thank Nisha for giving me this opportunity to share with you whatever I learned so far during my journey, because learning never ends. Thank you, Nisha. The platform is yours.
I was so engrossed in the story, and I don't know, you took me to Lebanon, you took me to all those streets. And Sadika, first of all, I did not know the meaning of your name. I'm a person who, whenever I come to, where I come across a new name, I first ask, what is the meaning of that particular name? But I don't know, somehow I missed asking you. But I'm glad that, yes, you justify the name that you have, a friend. Okay, and that's so beautiful. Thank you so much for that. We have few questions here for you.
Sure.
First of all, somebody here is wants to give a message that your story was literally courageous and inspiring.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And yes, one question here I have for you is, what are the other leadership values you think that a leader should have? See, we all are somewhere connected to Toastmasters, and I'm so glad to see Toastmaster Nahar here. I had seen him in the year 2017 or 18, and now I can see his name on the screen. I'm so happy to see that.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello, good
Yeah, how are
afternoon.
you, sir?
Fine, fine. How do you do?
Good, sir. Okay. So the question that I have is, as a leader, what are the values that you think a person should have, other than the quality of including everyone, of diversified cultures? But other than
Yeah.
that, what values do you think we should have?
Okay. So I'm going to be talking John Maxwell values and the values we teach whenever we go to those countries. The first thing is attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And he says about attitude, it's like a paintbrush. You either paint your world black or colorful. So the attitude is about the perception. It's about how you see the world. And a leader has to have this positive attitude all the time. It's tough to maintain it. It's not an easy thing, but this is a must, attitude. And then comes listening and the value of listening. Because when you listen to people, you make them feel valued. You make them feel that they really mean something to you. Listening is so powerful. It's the same as storytelling, because when you're telling a story, you want people to listen. And when you are listening, you are taking in these stories that are being shared with you. So listening. And then you have responsibility, forgiveness, and then you have work ethics. You have humility is a must. A leader is so humble, and he's always projecting this humility image because he needs to be among the people. He shouldn't be above people. He has to be there. He has to be in their shoes, understanding people. And then you have compassion. You have, there are plenty. And then when we finish, by the way, I'm going to tell you something, Nisha. When we finish delivering those values, he ends up with something: share your story. Once we finish the training on those values, which are almost 16 values, I can't recall all of them. One of them is intentionality also. A leader has to be intentional in everything he does. It's not a leader only. Every single human being has to be intentional. Because if you keep on saying, I will do this one day, no, I'm going to do this. You have to be intentional in everything you do. You have to be intentional to listen to people. You have to be intentional in loving people. You have to be intentional in preferring people. You have to be intentional in serving people. So it's huge. And then he ends up, the last training we do is share your story, because this is how powerful it is. And you made it clear at the beginning. You listened to my story in 2015. If it wasn't about, because people don't remember every single word you share. People remember the feeling you create. People remember the emotions, because we are all unique in our experiences, and our stories are unique, exactly like our fingerprints. There is no one similar fingerprint that is similar to the other, exactly with the story. So when you share your story, you're leaving this impact, this powerful impact, and you're leaving the emotions, because we all share the same emotions, no matter what the emotion is. So when it gets through to the heart, it stays there.
Thank you so much, Sadika, for that. Now, there is one question, and I also had the same question. If you know Sudhir, everybody knows Sudhir Gujar, okay? If you know him, he is asking, how do we deal with people who are so rigid that they don't consider including people of other cultures in their lives? So, how can we deal with those people?
Okay. So the first thing I advise is to help those people or introduce to those people the culture of sharing. And the culture of sharing can start with sharing food. It can start with any simple kind of sharing. And the best way to start is with sharing food. Your food and my food, your Indian food and my Lebanese food, the Pakistani food and the other kind of food, the Qatari food and whatever kind of food. Food brings people together. And when you start this culture of sharing, you can start it on a round table or a dinner table or a lunch table, and then you start sharing ideas. And when you start sharing ideas, people will notice that diversity bridges the gap of knowledge, the gap of experience, and the gap of perception. 3 gaps will be filled with diversity, because what Nisha knows and what Nisha has gained from her culture, I don't have it in mine. You're an added value to me. Whatever Nisha has gained from her childhood, a certain perception towards anything, and if she shares it with me, and I have this moment of the light bulb, oh my God, I didn't know that. And a leader has to be so humble to go to his team and tell them, share with me what I don't know. So you fill in the knowledge gap, the experience gap, and the perception gap. And it all starts with a culture of sharing, introducing this culture of sharing. For the people who are rigid, you can a bit transform them into mellow people. If you share music with them, if you share not only food, you have lots of stuff, a book maybe, anything. But you have to be the initiator. If you're a leader, you would initiate this. And believe me, those people are the weakest people. They hide behind this facade of rigidity, and they keep themselves safe because they are vulnerable and they fear in showing their vulnerability. But once they know, and by the way, now it comes to my mind also, one of the values of a leader is vulnerability. Oh my God, I don't get the word now. He has to be vulnerable. He has to show that he is human, so people can connect to him. And this is how he shows it, through sharing his story.
Thank you again, Sadika. And one more thing that I wanted to know is, how can we be a part of your NGO, Being Human? Is there any way we can contribute, or if we want to, work along with you, how can we do that?
Oh, that'd be awesome. I've started already a project which is funded now by the German government. I started last week, and they are working on social cohesion in Lebanon. And they approached me, and I started, if you want, workshops over the span of 4 months until the end of September, storytelling, public speaking, and I have, they are working on 50 youth from North Lebanon, from all the areas, from different political background, religious background, and magic's starting to happen. You can help me how about if I can have you on my platform? We are meeting on Zoom because of Corona, of course. I'm doing the workshops through Zoom. So I would love to have storytellers to share their stories with them and empower them, give them some techniques maybe that I don't know, because as I said, you might fill a knowledge gap I don't have, or an experience gap I don't have, and share with those youth to empower them and encourage them to share their stories and bring them together to have this social cohesion of diversity and inclusion. I would appreciate this a lot.
Thank you so much, Sadika. I will definitely do that. After the workshop, I'll
Awesome.
talk to you. Yeah, definitely. And what next? You are already a certified coach with John Maxwell Team, and you are the executive director, which I did not understand. I wanted to ask, what is this executive directorship all about? And what
So,
next? Yeah.
yes. So when you start with the John Maxwell program, there are 3 levels. Exactly like Toastmasters, you have different manuals, the advanced, and so far and so forth. So with John, the first level is to become a certified trainer, coach, speaker, and teacher of the John Maxwell material. The next level is mentorship. You become a mentor. And the last level is you become an executive director on the team. So uh, it's kind of you complete the whole program because it's a very wide program. And by the way, his program starts or is addressed to children starting 8 years old until never ending. I mean, you have different programs and different levels, and we cover all these. You have parenting certifications, you have youth certification. It's a huge thing. So the executive director is the, if you want, like the distinguished Toastmaster level. And what next? It's ongoing. It's ongoing.
Thank you so much, Sadika, once again for
Thank you.
sparing your time, coming here. And yes, we have a comment that came from one of our participants. She said that you are so strong and positive. Yeah, which
Thank
I
you.
also believed. And we have learned a lot from every story that you have shared here. So there's no diversity in emotions, and that's when we end up being human.
It's
That's what,
so true.
yeah. And
It's so
one of our participants said that we Indians, and he's true, he's very true, that we Indians are so blessed with diversified cultures and linguistically lifestyle, everything, and
yes.
it was very easy for him to relate to what you said. So
That's
yes.
amazing. That's amazing. I'm really humbled. I'm really honored to be here, Nisha. Thank you so much, dear.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really wonderful because, when you said it's all about diversity and inclusion, I was thinking, okay, what is she going to talk about? That curiosity was there. But the way you weaved the entire story and, shared those experiences, Sadika, first of all, it takes a lot of courage to do that. It's not easy. And in Toastmasters, we do not get a chance to discuss all these things because it falls into those
Yes,
taboo categories. But I'm
yes,
happy that you came here, you shared, and you gave us the true picture of what is happening there. Because we sitting here watching the news, we have got a lot of different perceptions, right?
yes,
But
yes.
yeah, thank you so much, and hats off to you,
Thank you. Thank you, my
especially
dear.
as a
Can I
mother.
yeah, can I say something? It's not only courage, it's healing, by the way.
Hmm,
And I always say you can never share a story that has no end. So I'm so happy that I have closures, yeah, I have closures with all the stories I've been through. This is where the courage comes from. And
true.
then I believe that I need to help others and save others the trouble if they can learn from my story. I really strongly believe in that.
Thank you. And I learned from you because as a mother, I have two toddlers, and they are, all over the wall. You can see everything on the wall. You can see everything on
Amazing.
the floor. Yeah. So, but I always stop them from doing it. But now onwards, after listening to your story, I will let them do whatever they want, except, yes, touching my books and touching, other things that I love. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Sadika, for that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you,
And
my dear. My
and
pleasure.
thank you, yeah. Thank you so much, everybody who attended this session, and I hope you liked the session, and you have got something to carry back, and you will think on it, reflect on it, or maybe you will apply it in your lives. So thank you once again for coming in. And Nahar sir, you want to say something or convey your message? Yeah, I have, you can unmute yourself, and if you want to convey, yeah. What happened? All right. Okay. Fine. I will take his feedback later and share it with
Okay.
you. Okay.
Okay.
And guys, we will see you all again next week with a new guest speaker and a new interesting topic. Till then, have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.